I'm meteorologist John Marshall, and folks, we have a trifecta of storms in the Atlantic Basin. It's quite unusual, and it gets the meteorologists going here because we actually have three hurricanes at this current time. We have Irma. We're well aware of what Irma has done and what it is doing. In its trails, following behind, Irma's brother, Jose, now has winds of 90 miles an hour. And folks, a hurricane watch just went up for Antigua and Barbuda, the island that got hammered by Wilma a day ago. Simply amazing. This storm, Jose, has winds of 90 miles an hour and taking the same path as its sister to the west-northwest. Katia, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, down in the Bay of Campeche, way over here. Winds of 80 miles an hour. That is a hurricane as well. And that is going to move southwest into Mexico and continue to diminish in intensity. But rarely do you see such a parade of storms like this in the Atlantic Basin, and I just wanted to point that out. And I'm really feeling for those people in the northern Leeward Islands once again with Jose. But obviously right now, since Jose is so far away from those islands, and we're going to concentrate on what has been the story the last several days, is intense Category 5 Hurricane Irma, which is now located to the north of the island of Hispaniola. It has not touched the island of Puerto Rico with its eye or made landfall on that island, as well as not touching Hispaniola. So the good news there is they're being spared this hurricane, but as we go in closer, this thing is still a monster. Have the winds diminished 10 miles an hour? Yeah, from 185 to a sustained 175 mile an hour. Category 5, very dangerous hurricane. Listen, it's still packing an incredible punch. 10 miles an hour, not a huge difference, folks. And it is expected, look at the eye right there, moving to the west-northwest at 17 miles an hour. It is not as impressive, if you will, as yesterday's satellite loop, but it is still an incredible-looking hurricane, meteorologically speaking. The eye is about 22 miles in diameter, and there it is, moving to the west-northwest. Here is the Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. Many are familiar with that resort. And there is Haiti. These two countries share the island known as Hispaniola, and the storm is moving west-northwest, parallel and offshore of that island. The bad news is the next landfall for Irma will be the Turks and Caicos in the southeastern Bahamas. That will be, there they are right there. If I'm going to let that, right there. That will happen this evening. Folks, it is heading right toward the beautiful islands of the Turks and Caicos. They will see winds in excess of 135 miles an hour. You've seen the video yesterday and overnight last night of what has happened and transpired. Unfortunately, it does not look good for those areas of the Turks and Caicos later this evening through tonight. And then what happens? Well, we have the Bahama chain right here, and we have Cuba right here. So I'm going to show you the upper level atmosphere with the GFS that just came in. It's our American model, and try to explain the steering currents of where Irma may go over the next couple of days. So all in all, this is the jet stream level of air, about 30,000 feet in the Earth's atmosphere. Trough of low pressure in the northeast. This is for Friday night. High pressure off the coast. What we'll be developing is a weak area of low pressure right there in the upper levels of the atmosphere. That will ever so slightly catch Irma and grasp it and capture it. And this ridge of high pressure noses back in. So it acts like a bowling alley for the hurricane. Again, this is the jet stream level to move north-northwest somewhere along the Florida coastline through about Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. That storm will possibly make landfall somewhere in the Carolinas. Let's back up. It is a Category 5 storm right now. Again, Turks and Caicos will experience Category 5 conditions this evening and tonight with winds in excess of 140, 155 miles an hour. The storm will continue to move as a Category 4 or 5. Remember, this is a projection. It's not 100% accurate, but it's the best the Hurricane Center and what us meteorologists are thinking right now. It will remain a powerful Category 4 hurricane as it approaches the area between Florida and Cuba, known as the Florida Straits. This time frame is somewhere between Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and early Sunday morning, somewhere southeast of Miami, as a Category 4 hurricane, maybe a Category 5. Okay, concise track. Then the cone of uncertainty opens up a little bit, and it widens out. Where does that storm go? And we've been saying this the last 3 days. Is it right inland, right from Miami to Lake Okeechobee and north to Ocala? I think that's the town in northern Florida. Message me. I'm pretty sure Ocala's right around here. Does it stay over the west coast? But notice the cone of uncertainty has shifted away from the west coast. Still a possibility. It was out here earlier, yesterday. Now it is closing in, but has shifted a little bit closer to the actual track that they think. But don't concentrate on this exact line. All right, the hurricane force winds extend outward about 60 miles. And that could be good or bad, because if this storm stays offshore Florida by 60 miles, unless its wind field expands, the hurricane force wind field, maybe you will not get those damaging hurricane force Category 3 winds or Category 4 winds. It happened with Matthew last year. That eye just stayed offshore, and the east coast of Florida had wind gusts between 60 and 65 miles an hour. I think Daytona had an issue, but you get my drift here. If it stays offshore 50 or 60 miles, that will be the saving grace for the Florida Peninsula. Unfortunately, with that high pressure system moving in and that upper level low catching it, I don't think it's going out to sea. I just don't, unless something happens here. And, it's a fluid science. It's a billion molecules in the atmosphere. How are we going to, forecast everything to come together? I'm not a wizard. Believe me, I'm not a wizard. It may and probably will hone in on the southeast coast as a landfalling hurricane. Does it landfall in Florida? We don't know. Is it offshore? Possibly. But the cone is shrinking of uncertainty. Coastal Georgia, South Carolina, coastal North Carolina. Beautiful part of the world. Please stay tuned and take the advice of the local authorities. This is supposed to come in as a Category 3. Sometime Sunday, I'll make that Monday morning. Somewhere along this bend right here in the southeast. Hurricane Irma, I think, was the most powerful storm to have maximum winds of 185 miles an hour for over a day. Hurricane Allen had winds of 190 miles an hour back in 1980, but the longevity wasn't there. So this has been an incredible storm. I feel for the people down in the islands. They are just they're in disbelief. They cannot believe what has happened. And the Turks and Caicos, Godspeed to those people for this evening and overnight tonight. Now, we're going to watch the storm. A hurricane watch is now in effect from Bonita Beach on the west coast, just south of Fort Myers, including all the Keys, Miami, and just to Juniper Inlet, just south of West Palm Beach, Florida, or maybe just north, including Miami. Okay? Hurricane watch means hurricane conditions are possible in the next 48 hours or so. I think they changed their lingo around a little bit. Maybe that just means tropical storm force winds are expected by 48 hours. In any event, in 2 to 3 days, we are going to have a powerful hurricane, the entire Bahamas under a hurricane warning. From the Turks and Caicos all the way up to Freeport and Nassau in the Bahamas, and they got raked by Matthew last year in September or October. So we're going to watch this very closely. If you live in Florida, I know you guys are boarding up, you're putting your shutters up, your hurricane shutters up. That's the thing to do. Listen, rather be safe than sorry. But the storm does mean business. It is large. It's a huge storm and continues to move to the west-northwest at about 17 miles an hour. Okay? Hurricane conditions will be affecting the Bahamas, and conditions will deteriorate rapidly over the southeastern Bahamas. Puerto Rico was spared the brunt of this hurricane. It did not make landfall. So was the Dominican Republic and Haiti. The southeastern Bahamas, they're not going to be so lucky. They're going to get the full brunt of this storm, and there's still an intense band around there. You can always get an updated forecast at www.johnmarshallweather.com. Have a great day.